Okay, welcome back everyone. You waited long enough, so let's continue our process of preparing this for texturing. So first off, we're gonna grab everything we need to create a low poly mesh from, so our high poly mesh, and just start moving it to the collection. We're gonna call it wood_low. So first off, I grab the logs. Now I'm gonna grab these horizontal planks over here, and I'm just gonna move them down to the same collection as well. So yeah, just Shift D, duplicate, and move to the wood_low collection. After that, you can grab your vertical planks and also just move them to the same collection down there. We're doing this so that we can keep this high detailed gate in one collection and have what's going to be our low detail gate in another collection. Now that we've moved that to the wood_low collection, we can start maybe naming our parts here. So let's call the logs log_low and log1_low. Let's go the first set of planks, well, probably planks 1_low, and the second part we'll call just planks 2_low, and the horizontal ones we'll call them probably just planks 3_low. There we go. So now that that's ready, we can start working on the process of creating the low poly versions of our mesh here. So if we go into our multi-resolution modifier and just apply it by either pressing the arrow key and apply or pressing Ctrl A, we're gonna apply all the high detail to the mesh, and it's gonna be baked into the mesh. That way, when we start decimating our mesh with the decimate modifier, we're gonna keep the closest resemblance to our high poly mesh, but our actual mesh is gonna be way lower. So when creating the decimate modifier, we're gonna do the collapse option and then just doing 0.1 in the ratio setting. Be warned, this can, depending on your system, take a while. I've let you see this in real time now, so for me it was probably around 30 seconds. If you want it to go quicker, you can go to maybe 0.5 or 0.8 first and then decimate again. You can see me here decimating 0.1 and then applying the modifier and then decimating 0.1 again and then applying the modifier, and every time you go and apply the modifier from the beginning, it's going to go quicker because the high poly count is going to be lower and lower every time. So yeah, basically we want it around maybe 1000 triangles for this. We'll see how much we get here. You can see I'm going for a 0.02 here. So we're just trying to get it to a sweet spot where it still looks like our log in the high poly version, but has, you can see here, we can go even down to 300, but that's gonna be probably a little too much. We'll see how it works out for us later. But yeah, once we've done that, I'm gonna speed up the process of decimating here now. We don't have to wait through it again. So just, yeah, go to your decimate modifier, then decimate to 0.1, apply the modifier and then decimate again until you reach the desired mesh density. And the first one through, when I was doing this, my mesh went too low. I just went harsh on the decimate modifier and I just had not enough geometry to bake our high poly later on in Substance. So I decided to show you this part as well, where I just duplicated the high poly mesh again and decimated it not as hard as before, so I can still keep some of the mesh consistent with the high poly version. Now that that's done, you can go into your edit mode for the first set of planks and just select the edges that you want to UV unwrap. So just select the furthest probably edges of your mesh and try connecting them. Once you're happy with your selection of the edges, you can press Ctrl E. This will bring you a menu and you can click on Mark Seam. I recommend you create a shortcut for your mark seam function. Mine is Ctrl F, I think, and this then creates the seams just by pressing Ctrl F. This is going to speed up the process. Basically, you want to imagine that you're cutting into the mesh with a pair of scissors and trying to spread it out on a sheet of paper, for example. This is going to allow us later to have clean textures baked onto the mesh without having any weird stretches. As I said before, you can see that my mesh here is relatively low poly. Yours shouldn't be this much decimated. Try keeping it, let's say, double the amount of polygons that I'm having here. As I said, later on I will do the same thing. Just for editing, this was kind of easier for me to show you what exactly went wrong and how to fix it. Whenever you need to fix any part of this process, you can always just go back to your high poly mesh, duplicate it, and then decimate it again if you've decimated too far. Here I've just sped up the process again, but it's really the same thing on every plank. And don't forget the holes in the middle. You want to select the surrounding edges of the holes on both sides and then connect them through the hole itself. Once you're done, or you think you're done with your first set of planks, you can go into your UV editing tab and then press U on the screen and click on unwrap. This is gonna spread your UV tiles on the UV editing screen. You're gonna be able to see here already if you did some mistake. Maybe you didn't connect the islands properly, so they kind of go into each other, or just one is folded onto itself weirdly. If you're happy with your result, you can jump on to working the next set of planks. We're gonna do this for all of the planks here, both the vertical and the horizontal ones, and of course our logs that are on the edges of our gate. This process can become really tedious, and if you're new to UV unwrapping, I highly recommend you check out some of the tutorials on UV mapping online on YouTube. UV unwrapping is crucial in the process of making game-ready props. Without it, you won't be able to really put any kind of texture on your assets. So yeah, it's kind of really important. And you can see here that I did the same mistake here with the horizontal planks. I just decimated them too much. So I just went again into our wood for sculpting collection, duplicated them, moved them to our new collection here, wood_low, decimated them again, but not so much this time, and then went again and created new UV maps for them as well. I know this can get kind of confusing, but I wanted to include this part as well because it's part of my process. I just do tend to do things kind of chaotically, and yeah, making mistakes is just part of the learning curve. You're gonna make them anyway at some point in your career somewhere. So yeah, basically I just wanted to show you that I'm still making mistakes to this day. Let's now go into our ropes and nails collection here. You can see that I've joined the meshes together, so all the nails are now one mesh and all the ropes are now another mesh, and I've just called them nails_low and ropes_low, as you can see up here. Don't forget that your nails have linked object data, so you want to unlink the object data first and then join them into one mesh. Here I just moved the collection wood for sculpting a little lower, and I just called it gate high. So we can call our wood low collection gate low now. This is so that they're close together and we can work with them more easily. Since we duplicated a new set of horizontal planks, we just want to rename them as well, so every name is properly set. And we can start thinking about the size of the UV maps now. Since we got a lot of these vertical planks and just a few set of horizontal planks, but then again we have the ropes and the nails, I was thinking maybe we can do horizontal planks, the nails and the ropes on one UV map or one material, and then have the vertical planks and the logs on the other material or other UV map. But as you can see, my UV islands are overlapping now, so that's not good. I hit back on my pack master here and it packs everything into the right UV island, but my nails now get separately packed into it. And as I want to save as much space as I can, I'm gonna keep the nails overlapping each other. So remember, we have that one bent nail and the straight nails. And all the bent nails use the same island and all the straight nails use the same UV islands, if this makes any sense to you. So that whatever you do with the texture on the straight nails, all the straight nails are gonna look the same, and the same goes for the bent nails. So I just want to have them on the same UV space. But if you want to have lots of different details on your nails that are not sharing the same texture space, you can just unwrap them all together, and every nail is gonna have their own texture, and it's going to be even more detailed and even more lively. So here I'm gonna select all our vertical planks next, and that goes for our logs as well. And it's so funny, you can see here that I forgot to include the log to the right. And that's actually great because I can show you what happens if you don't unpack it and send it to Substance Painter and try to texture it later. That's gonna come in real handy for showing you how to fix a mistake like that. But anyways, you can see that with all our things here UV unwrapped, I just pressed U to unwrap and all the islands were organized into our UV editing space here, and that worked for us perfectly. So we just do the same for the horizontal planks, the ropes and the nails, and we assign a material to each of them. We're gonna assign a material to the ropes, nails and the horizontal planks, and do the same for the vertical planks. Right here I'm just fixing my nails. I'm gonna put them back into our UV editing space here, into our UV tile. Just want to adjust them by hand, move them around till they fit our UV islands perfectly. And again, you don't have to worry too much about it. Don't worry about the pack master, which is used to make packing the UV islands quicker into the UV tile. You just press U on your keyboard, click unwrap, and it's probably gonna do a great job of packing it in all together. As I said, UV mapping can be a tedious process, especially for beginners, so if you're not really familiar with it, I highly encourage you to go to YouTube and just find a good UV mapping or UV unwrapping tutorial and you'll be good to go. I'm just gonna fix these last few islands here, and yeah, this looks pretty good. Okay, now for the material name. We're gonna keep this as ropes and nails probably. And you just want to select one of them which has the material applied to it, then press Ctrl L on your keyboard and click on Link Materials. This is going to apply the material to all of the meshes that you have selected at the moment in your viewport. We're going to do the same thing for our vertical planks here, just select all of them. Oh wait, I can see that I have an island missing here. I just pressed the pack on my pack master, but you can just again press U and unwrap it all together, so it's gonna pack itself in the UV tile perfectly. Now for the material name, let's call it logs and planks, and just again go to Ctrl L and click on Link Materials, so the material is applied on all of them. And now let's see if all of our rotations, scales and positions are applied. We're just going to go through, cycle each of them and just see if there's, for example, a rotation value of 180 or something crazy like you see here. We're just going to press Ctrl A and then click on a rotation to fix that, or click on scale to fix that if we want to or if we need to. Let's just check the face orientation here one more time. We can do that in viewport overlays, face orientation, or have it like a shortcut as I'm having it here. If everything is looking good, you can go ahead and export the mesh. What you want to do is go to File, Export, press on FBX. And for the settings, you're gonna press on Selected Objects, FBX All in the Apply settings, and you can disable bake animations. Name it gate_low and click on Export. Once we've done that, you can go into your collection gate_high, and we're gonna have to export the high poly mesh as well. So we're gonna have to include our ropes and nails as well, and we're gonna probably have to name them properly. So once we go into the baking process, the names match each other. For now, I'm gonna put the ropes and the nails into the right collection, which is gate_high, and just delete the ropes and the nails collection. Now that everything is in the same collection, we can go ahead and maybe combine the ropes into one mesh and then the nails into one mesh. So we have it the same as we have it on our low poly mesh. For this, we're gonna have to apply the modifiers because the curve modifier is dependent on the mesh itself. You see, when I try to move it, it just creates a mess, and once we try to join it all together, it's gonna create a mess as well. So we're gonna have to apply them, and this also may take some time. You can try to not touch the modifiers and just export everything as is, and maybe not, you're gonna have a little bit of baking problems later on because you're not gonna be able to match the names in the Substance Painter program. But anyway, if you have the patience, you can go ahead and just apply all the modifier on the high poly mesh and join the meshes together, so we have the same amount of meshes on both the low poly collection and the high poly collection, and then it's going to be ready for the perfect baking procedure. So right here we just want to name all of our high poly meshes correctly. I'm just going to name them with whatever the appropriate name in the low poly collection is, and just add _high after it. That's why it's so convenient to have these collections so close to each other in the hierarchy view. So you can just select whatever mesh you need and see its opposing part in the other collection and name it properly. Here I've just realized that I have a wrong name in the low poly collection, and I'm just going to go and rename that and then re-export the mesh by clicking right click on the collection, export hierarchy, and just clicking on the gate_low again here. We're gonna export the high poly mesh here, call it gate_high, and just keep it in the same folder as our low poly mesh. Now let's open up Substance Painter and go into File, New, and just select our low poly mesh here. Once you find your mesh, you can select the document resolution either for 2K or 4K and click OK. This is gonna kind of spawn our gate here in the middle of the screen, and now we want to bake our high poly detail onto it. So we go into this little bake section up here, select 4K on the output size. Let's grab our high poly mesh. Now this can take a little bit, depends on your system again. And once this is done, try to kind of arrange the little blue mesh so it fits as closely as it can onto the little red mesh. The red mesh will show you where it's clipping, and the blue mesh is the high poly mesh. You can select match by name here, see that all the names are matching. If not, you're gonna have to go back to Blender and re-import the model back into the Substance Painter. So we see we have some intersecting meshes here, and we also see that, as I mentioned before, the right log here on the right side isn't unwrapped because it's just gray and nothing's baking onto it. We're gonna fix both of these problems in a second here. But you can see how the high poly mesh is already baking nicely onto our low poly mesh. Now that the bake is done, we can go back to return to painting view, and yeah, see, it's just gray, the log I mean. So let's jump back into Blender, and we're just gonna have to unwrap the log again because, or not again, I didn't do it at all. So yeah, just unwrap it and then select all the planks and the other log that are sharing the same material. And we're gonna have to unwrap them so that they fit into the UV tile again. So we just select all of them, go into our edit mode, and you can see that the islands are now overlapping here. We just want to resize the new log UV island here and place it into position. I click back on Packmaster, but you can just press on UV unwrap and it will unwrap perfectly. As for the intersecting meshes here, remember how I showed you before that in Blender we can already see that the meshes will not fit perfectly together because we decimated them too harshly. Well, this is also something we have to fix here. So if you have a lot of these red areas where the meshes aren't working together perfectly, you should go back and try to decimate them not so hard, or even move the geometry or the vertices left and right until they fit the high poly mesh more. I hope this makes sense. What you want to do is basically have the lowest possible amount of triangles on your low poly mesh while still retaining the shape of the high poly mesh, and then the high poly details will bake onto the mesh perfectly. As you can see here, I'm pretty happy with the result. All the details baked into it, not a lot of mistakes happened. And as this gate is going to be rendered from afar anyway, I'm not gonna worry too much about fixing all the little details that went wrong, kinda. So as you can see, I jumped back into Blender and fixed some UV unwrapping issues that I had here with this little hole in the plank. And this is the point where I fixed the actual geometry. As I said before, duplicated the high poly mesh and recreated it in a low poly mesh and then fixed the UVs. Anyways, back in Substance Painter, we press Ctrl-Shift-R. This will reload the low poly mesh that we've exported right now, and in the baking window we just press bake again. It's going to use the same high poly mesh and give us a much smoother and cleaner result. Cool, let's start texturing. In the section here to the left where the layers are, we create a new fill layer, right click, black mask, and then go into the right click and generators. We are going to select the dirt mask right now, and this is just going to give us an overview of all the little grooves that we've created with our high poly mesh. And the dirt mask is just gonna fill all the little grooves with, well, dirt. We've decided for now we're just gonna pick a darker color. This black is gonna do fine, so we can just visualize at the moment where all the grooves are and how it's gonna look once we start filling in the holes and we start creating highlighted edges. We just want to get a sense of how the gate reads at the moment. So yeah, just moving some sliders around here to get the result that we want. And really, at this point, you don't have to copy what I do with every value that I set. You can experiment a lot here with color, with roughness value, with height, with whatever you want, with the amount of dirt that's being filled in these grooves. I'm just gonna add two more fill layers here. The upper one I'm gonna call edge, dirt is gonna be called dirt here, and the lower one we're just gonna leave for now. Let's, in our search bar, search for edge and just drag any edge mask modifier here that you want and place it onto the black mask of our fill layer here on top. We're gonna move the values of our colors to get something more orangey so that it closely resembles where wear or damage to the wood would occur normally. For this I'm gonna look at some references now. It's time to start looking at some colors soon, so we're just gonna pull up our pure ref here and find some stylized wood that we've found somewhere on the internet. I think it was somewhere on ArtStation. So we want to match the colors of our gates to some stylized colors that are already known to us from before. You can see on this upper image here it's more of a realistic feel, while here it's more saturated and more stylized, and I'm gonna use this image to just grab some colors out of them. I'm gonna take our edge here and just get the color picker here at the base color selection. And I'm just gonna grab a higher value color from it. It's probably gonna be too gray, but we're gonna fix that later anyway, so don't worry. And for our dirt color here, I'm just gonna grab one of the more saturated colors in the same image. So we're gonna have to start pushing our base color here. So let's grab our lower fill layer and just grab some color that we like from the image. There we go. It's already starting to look like a gate now. It's really stylized for now. It kind of looks like a chocolate bar. But yeah, as we create more layers and get more variants in this gate, it's gonna look more and more like a old wooden gate. Don't you worry. It's just gonna take some time. Let's see if moving our layers around helps us or not. This is kind of looking cool, so I'm gonna keep it as is right now. Here the dirt layer kind of is above the edgeware layer, so yeah, that kind of works for us. Duplicating the edgeware layer here and pressing right click on it and going to black mask again, so we kind of clear the edge mask, and grabbing another edge mask from our search bar down there and just dragging it into our black mask on the edge layer. We're gonna select another color here so we get maybe a more emphasized effect on our edges here. And as I said before, this is really something that you need to figure out for yourself. You're gonna see me moving the viewport a lot around our gate here in the texturing part. We just have to feel it out. We want to make it look stylized, but at the same time we want it to have some variance. I mean, a lot of variance in it. That's what's going to sell the effect of it being old and it being worn. Right click on the edge layer here and going to filter and just adding a blur slope filter. That's gonna make it look even more stylized by just rounding out the lines that are creating the edges here. You can see if you select, let's say, the size of 10, they're gonna be more thick. If you go to 100, they're gonna be more fine. But definitely it creates this variance in the line and it makes it more painterly. Let's go on. I duplicate the base layer here, give it a black mask of course, and add a fill layer. Now here in our right side we select the grayscale and we want to select one of the smudges that we have here. This is going to create this mask over the whole gate and we're gonna give it a little color variance here. We don't want it to have the same hue of brown everywhere. We wanted to have some variation in it because wood has a lot of color variation in it if you look at it. So there I just picked another value from our image that's on my second monitor, and now I'm just going to play around with either the color value or the smudge mask that is on the second layer here. We should definitely move our roughness slider here a little bit, make it more rough, not so smooth I guess. Wood is rough after all. And to see what we're doing with our color here more precisely, we can go up there where you can see this little material text on the top right corner and we can select the base color. This is gonna isolate only the base color and we're gonna be able to get a closer look without our reflections affecting our view and just create much more variation here easily. We're gonna see what we're doing actually. Once we get something that we like, we can go back into our material setting and just have all the values that we need back in the viewport. I'm gonna add another filter here and I'm gonna add another blur slope. Just trying different intensities here. The divider 1 is probably giving us too big of slopes here, so we're gonna move with 10 and see how it feels. As I said before, you can see how it kind of gives us this painterly vibe to our color here. We've set the projection from UV mapping to triplanar. This is giving our smudge much more consistency across all the planks at the same time, as opposed to having it applied on the UV islands themselves. I hope this makes sense. It's like projecting directly onto the mesh from the point that you see, not just as the program sees the UVs. So yeah, this works for us. We're gonna just move some sliders around here. Again, I hope you're not copying everything you see number by number. You should kinda give it something of your own. Just move a slider too much in one direction, maybe you'll like it. And it's already kind of cool, the roughness difference that our base layer has against our second layer here. You can already see that it has some shiny spots and then some more rough spots here and there. And yeah, there's no exact order in doing texturing or in the texturing process. You just jump from one layer to another and kind of see how it feels. Here I just made the edges more pronounced. I gave them a higher hue and made them maybe a little bit more desaturated. You can see I'm just moving sliders around and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. See, this is, for me at least, too much. I'm gonna dial it down a little bit and just trying to find the best for our edges here. Once you find something that works for you, you can even try to maybe move this little slider that's right of the layer here. And this is just how much opacity, at least at this function, the layer is having, how much of an impact it's having on the full scene. So you can try to do that for the dirt layer as well, maybe. Maybe you find that the dirt is too strong and you can just move it down. And what's nice is, as you lower the opacity a little bit, it kind of mixes with the brownish color beneath it, so it gets this more natural feel to the dirt. It's not so much there as its own thing, but it's more like an accumulation of shadows. Adding another fill layer just above our base layer here, and we're just gonna call it roughness lines. For now, I'm just gonna remove all the values of the layer and just leave the roughness, and I'm just gonna move it to the right side here so that it becomes really rough. Once that's done, you can check the roughness as we did before for the base color. You can check it on the top side menu here. Just select roughness. You'll be able to see it better like this. Trying to move it around the hierarchy a little bit, see what works best for us. And let's create a fill layer on it. And let's go into, let's say, anisotropic here and just get these lines you see. Rotate them 90 degrees so we get them to be vertical. And play a little bit with the tiling and the balance. We want to get them to be really visible, but at the same time we need to have them be really contrasting to the base roughness value that we have. So when we look at them, we have to see a really exaggerated difference between the roughness value of the base layer and our roughness lines layer here. Again, jumping around here, going to our edge layer and just turning the value down a little bit to get it more subtle, I guess. Later on, I'm gonna bump it up, I think, but I'm just trying to see at the moment what works for me and what feels kind of wrong. Moving the balance function here in our roughness lines and just trying to create those lines and make them more visible here. To make it even more apparent what we're working with, we can activate our color here again and try to maybe push those lines with the color value as well. We can do this by either changing the color value of the lines here or rearranging the lines in our hierarchy and then changing the color value of the layer below them. As they are masked, they are going to always show a bit of information that's below them. Okay, let's see now what we can do with our height value here. If we select it and just move it around, you can see that it already kind of gets this feel of wooden planks a little bit now. This is what we want. So don't go overboard with the height value. This most often looks worse than good. So yeah, just keep the height values somewhere low and you should be fine. Duplicating the roughness lines here and swapping the lines or the anisotropic mask for the wood 01 mask here. We're gonna try to recreate the wooden texture with it a little bit more. Just make sure it's going the right orientation here and just play a little bit with the hardness and the knots values that you can see. What we want to do is make the planks look even more like wood. You can change the color value, the height value, the roughness value, whatever works and makes it seem more wood-like, I guess. And again, I'm just playing around with the values here, and I'm just gonna even speed up this process a little bit because it's just changing color values, changing the numbers here until I get something that feels natural to me. So the problems with the lines that we're having now is that they go across every section of our layers. So for example, right here, we don't want them to affect our edges. So what we do is we create a folder, create a black mask on it, find the edges that we want to be not affected and copy their contents onto the mask that you see here. So right now it only affects the edges of that folder. What we want to do now is just invert it. As you can see here, the mask is inverted, which now means that this folder is affecting everything except the edges. And you see that the lines just stop where the edges begin here. That's perfect. So now that that's done, let's go into our anisotropic here and select triplanar projection instead of UV projection. But this is gonna separate the lines a little bit, so we have to size up the tiling. Let's put it on to 10. This is gonna bring us to the almost the same value as we had before. The only thing that's changed is that the lines aren't broken where the UV seams begin or stop. They just flow through the full mesh as you can see it on the screen. Here we are just switching the color of our edge again. I never seem to get the edge color right or just the feel for the edge color right here. In my opinion right now, as I'm looking back at it at this moment, it feels very flat. There's not a lot of contrast going on between the base colors and the edges or the dark side and the highlights. You know, you want to have a lot of contrast because then the object stands out a little bit more. But yeah, it's just part of the process. You try whatever works and then you go back and iterate until you get something that works better. Here I just created another folder for our edges. I used the copy paste option for the mask settings and just copied and pasted the mask of our edge onto the folder and placed the edge into the folder. I removed the mask from the edge because I want it to be like the base of our edges. And now we can add a little bit variance to the edge. We can add different kinds of colors to it or different kinds of maybe heights or roughness values. But for now, let's just add another layer here and put a black mask on it. We're gonna try to make some variance in the edges here with it. Let's add a fill layer and go to our search here and search for, I don't know if this is gonna work, so let's try another one here. Maybe crystal one. Let's see if we do a little bit more of a tiling here, work the contrast, something's gotta give somewhere. Let's try something else. Maybe dirt 4 here. Yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of change here. So let's see. Maybe we can increase the tiling a little bit more and then kind of work the balance here a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of a change here on the edge. Really, this won't be noticeable later on as much as we are going to render the gate from afar a little bit, but I wanted to show you this cool little way of creating even more variation in the smallest of details right here. I'm gonna try to work the height a little bit, but I don't know if that's gonna give us a good result, so maybe just a little bit here. Okay, let's go into our roughness lines now and get a filter again. And maybe we can do a blur slope on it. Maybe we can also change the color a little bit to make them pop a little more. So yeah, let's see. Maybe blur slope and give it a 10 or maybe even 100 to get that fine detail in those lines just a little bit curvy. I think this is gonna work fine. Let's see if we can push the contrast a little bit or the balance even more. Well, I think this is gonna work good. Let's now jump back to our edges here. We want to get some variation in where the edges actually form or where the damage of the edges actually forms. So we're gonna add a fill layer to our folder here and just get some grungy texture applied to it, and then we can choose subtract from the fill layer there. And yeah, this is basically gonna subtract all the edges that the mask is kind of hiding. So it won't be so uniform and you'll get a lot of variation in where the edges are actually showing. Let's go ahead and duplicate our dirt layer up here and create a black mask on it. Let's search for dirt and just grab a dirt mask and pull it up here onto our black mask. Let's try and kind of adjust it. I just pushed the color to be a little bit more brownish, dark brown, something like that. And yeah, this kind of works good. Let's put all of our dirt masks here or layers into a dirt folder. And maybe we can move it under the edges so that the edges pop out more, or maybe not. Let's keep it where it is and just take a look at how it's looking so far. And it's looking good. It's getting that kind of rusty or oldish, almost broken down vibe right now. So yeah, that's cool. I can see up here that we've got some lines going horizontally across our planks. We want to remove them, so we'll just get to our roughness lines folder here, right click and create a paint layer this time. And with our island selection here selected and our grayscale here moved all the way to black, we're just gonna remove all the lines that are being created on top and also on the bottom of our gate. Let us now tackle the next problem. You can see that here where, let's say, a branch used to be, this broken piece of log needs fixing. It wouldn't look like this. It wouldn't just continue the pattern of the wood across it. So we just duplicate our edge here and remove the mask that we had before and just paint the new created black mask just on top of everything here. This is gonna make this branch piece be more of a high or lighter color and make it look more like it used to be a branch here that's been cut off with an axe or maybe a saw. By going into our height setting here above our layers and selecting replace on our knots folder, this is gonna, well, replace the height that has been there before with the newly created height in the knots folder. And now just using your brush tool, go over every broken piece of log where a branch used to stick out and just create this new color that we have. Right here I see we have a knot from our wood pattern texture, so I just removed it by going down to our wood pattern texture and sliding the knot slider all the way to the left. Now let's do the top of our logs here and maybe the bottoms as well. By duplicating our color layer here and giving it a black mask, we can go ahead and push it up here to the top somewhere. And we're gonna try to get a little bit more color variation here. Let's grab, no, not damage, let's grab a smudge texture from our masks here. And yeah, let's just choose a color that we want. It can be any color really. You can see I even tried a little bit of greenish here, maybe yellowish, something like that, and it seems to work for me. So yeah, you can do a smudge and move it somewhere just below the edges and you'll get more variation in your color, and that's what you want. So up in the knots selection here, let's add a knots layer. Just create a new fill layer, call it knots, give it a black mask. And if you go into your alpha selection here with your brush tool selected, we can go and find our knots brush. And now just work the balance, the contrast, the size, the roughness, everything you have from the sliders here, sorry, not roughness, roundness, and just start placing these knots on the lower parts, on the branch parts, on the upper parts, wherever they work, and see what works for you. You can see here that I'm gonna try to place a few here that are gonna look a little bit stylized, and then I'm gonna change my mind and try to recreate them again with a little bit more of a different feel. And so I changed the shape a little bit and the color a little bit, and that's gonna work for me. Let's now create a new fill layer here again, and we're gonna call it edge. We need a little bit more of a different edge up here, as the same color of the edges is being used for this, so we need something a little bit more brighter to make them just pop out a little bit. So we just get a curvature generator, select our color here from the top somewhere and just push it up a little bit and maybe saturate it a little bit more or desaturate it, whatever works for you. So this is looking kind of weird. Let's pick another color. Oh, this is much better. And yeah, that's looking fine. So that's done now. Let's see if we can get a little bit more of a different color here. Maybe here in our copy of our roughness lines. This is supposed to be our wood pattern, I think. So you can shift the color a little bit. I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter here and more saturated, so the gate gets a little bit more of a stylized feel. And we can now we should rename this actually. This should be, no, it's our wood pattern, so let's put wood texture here, and yeah, this is gonna work. All right, let's see what's next. Now it's time for us to add a little bit of moss. So get a new folder, get a new fill layer, pick your moss color, something you like, something greenish or yellowish. Maybe put the height a little higher, and let's call this base. So now we can actually put this into another folder and call it moss mask and get a black mask onto this actually. Now we can add a generator and let's call it moss dirt. And for the generator, we're gonna use probably a dirt mask here, just to get the moss in the grooves where we had the dirt before. But don't worry, we didn't lose the dirt here. We're just gonna get a subtraction layer and just subtract from what we have here, so that the dirt underneath is still going to be visible. We are also gonna play around with the settings here just a little bit, because this is now too harsh, there's too much moss going on. So let's see if we can get it deeper in the grooves here. Something like that maybe. Okay, we're also gonna need a little bit more variation in the moss color. So we're gonna grab our base layer here and we're gonna duplicate it. We're gonna create a black mask from it, of course, name it moss fill, and get a fill layer in that mask. Let's get a smudge again, and now we can push the color a little bit to be something more maybe yellowish, more to the orange side, so that it's not really green on green, but you get a little bit more color variation in it. Duplicating our moss dirt up here and removing the mask right now, so we can try something else here. Let's see a little bit more of an orange or saturated yellow color here. Let's get our smudge and try to give it a little bit more of hardness here. Let's add another black mask here on our folder and a fill layer, and this is going to allow us to get the moss on where the smudge mask was. So yeah, basically we don't want it everywhere, we just want it where the smudge is. And now getting it to be triplanar here in the projection settings and moving it around until we get something that we like. You can even try to tile the mask here as I did. I give it a tiling amount of 2 and just moving it around to see what fits best. In our second moss fill over here, we're just gonna create another fill layer inside of it and go to our grayscale selection here and choose another smudge mask that's gonna give again a little bit more variation in the already created smudge mask. And you can see it the moss kind of starts to feel like it's made out of more colors or more shapes, or just it gets this feel of being a little bit more natural. And I hate to do this to you, but I really didn't like how this smudge effect looked. So I just went ahead and removed the smudge mask or the smudge layer here and created a generator with the light effect on it and another fill layer above it. So just right click here, go to generators, and you can search for light. This is gonna give you the light setting here, and above it we're gonna put a fill layer. As I said, the fill layer, you can choose the smudge again, whichever one you like. You're just gonna probably use it to subtract from the bottom layer, the light layer, or let's use dirt for example, and then go to subtract. And now as the light layer is working like a lamp, shining down and creating whatever is on the layer material right there. You can see it's always coming from the same side. And then we have this smudge or dirt layer above it that's subtracting and creating a more natural feel from it. Before we proceed now, let's organize this a little bit. Let's get a new folder, call it wood, and let's get all of our wood placed into this section right here. The only thing we need to do now is move the dirt down here into this, and now we have a wood layer and a moss layer. Let's now create another dirt layer. Let's get a folder, call it lower dirt, and this is gonna act as an accumulation of dirt on just the lower parts of our gate here. So let's grab a black mask here, a fill layer inside of our folder here, and let's get a generator, and we're gonna use probably the position. Yeah, let's do the position layer here, or the position generator, and let's move our position slider so that it covers only the lower part of the gate. You can move the balance here, you can move the contrast, or you can even go dive into the other settings that are in the position gradient. This is gonna allow us to have whatever we put onto it, whatever layer we put onto it, to be just on the part where the position gradient is showing white right now, because we have a white layer in beneath it. Once we're happy with the position setting, we can go down to our base layer here, create a black mask, go into our fill layer, and just find another smudge mask over here. We're gonna need something that's gonna look like dirt, so let's find something maybe not so repetitive, maybe something like this. Go into our tree planar section and yeah, just move it around till we get the look that we want. Move it around a little bit, change the settings, you know the drill already. Just find what works for you. Let's go into our color selection here and get something that feels more like dirt, maybe something brownish again, but a little darker. And yeah, just jump back and forth between the settings until you find a good dirt feel. Just maybe here I moved the position gradient a little higher because it wasn't really showing on the gate. And yeah, now I go back into our tree planar mode and just work the position of the dirt until I'm happy with the result. You can see it already looks really stylized and kind of cool. It has a lot of color variation. It gets this lower dirt where it would accumulate naturally. It gets these fine edges and here and there a rougher edge. And yeah, it's well saturated. It's not bleak looking, but I still feel like we could have gotten it to be more of a contrast in the darker and the lighter values. I'll show you what I mean at the end of this video. But yeah, for now, let's get this dirt fixed in a position we like. I just grabbed a paint layer here and with the brush tool, I just removed some of the dirt that was too high up on the gate. And there you go, you're done basically. Let's get the new folder up here and you can call it whatever. Call it something like material wood or wood material, because we're gonna copy it to the other material that we have, the planks and nails. Just grab every folder that you have, move it into this folder, and you're ready to copy and paste it over to the second material. Just click on the folder, press right click and create smart material. You can either do it this way or literally just copy and then paste it on the second material. To the right side here we have the materials panel. Just grab the second material and press Ctrl V on your keyboard. And there you go. Now we need to fix some few minor issues that we have here. For example, the lines that we've created before that are going vertically across our vertical planks now go vertically across our horizontal planks. And it's kind of killing the look of this wood pattern feel. So we're gonna have to change that. And also we're gonna have to assign the proper folders or materials or layers to the proper objects in our scene. Let's get to the lines here first. Let's go down and just select everywhere where you have straight lines, and whatever your rotation is, just do 90 degrees contrasting to that. So yeah, mine were 90, so I moved them to 0, and the one that's 0, I'm gonna move it to 90, and there we go, easy fix. So now to the meshes that need to be organized into the proper materials. And since we have wood planks here and nails and ropes, we're just gonna grab the Mora wood here that I've assigned, click a black mask on it, go to the object selection and just click on every plank so we can start applying the actual materials to the planks here. Now we have only the nails and the ropes left to texture. We're doing so great. Just have a little bit more to push and we'll be done with our gate here. Let's create another folder here and create a black mask on it, so we'll be able to assign it to our nails here in the scene. We're gonna add a fill layer to it so we see what we're doing. The nails are actually white by default because they have no material right now on them, so we're gonna have to get our color to be something a little bit more different so we actually see what we're doing. Let's go with bright red here. And yeah, okay, now nothing's happening because it's inside of our wood folder here. So we're gonna have to realize that and move it over our wood folder so that we can actually apply the material. And you can just see how I'm really trying to apply it to the nails, but it just doesn't work. That's the reality. When you're working a lot of hours, your brain just gets foggy and you miss something simple like that. But don't worry, I'm gonna realize it in a moment here. There we go. Just gonna move it up here on top, and now I can remove everything that I don't want to be included in this layer. So not the planks and not the ropes. Just grayscale to the black side and just remove everything we don't need. There we go. Okay, let us now start creating our material for our nails. Let's get the color to be something more grayish like this. And nails are metallic, so let's push our metallic setting all the way to the right. This is gonna make them really reflective. So we're gonna also have to work with the roughness a little bit. But for now, let's do our classical thing and create a new layer, get a black mask on it, call it edge, and let's just get an edge mask on top of that so we can work with the edge. I just duplicated the one from before so we keep the same settings, so I can get a, let's say, metal edge generator on it, and then I can just move the slider up a little bit, and we're gonna have the same metallic thing going on but just with a lighter color. And now we can move our roughness values a little bit to see what works. The base layer a little more rough, the edge layer a little bit more shiny, and just work our generator here until we get something that looks nice. And this already looks pretty nice. Let's make them a little bit more rusty. Just add a rust folder here, and we're just gonna get a little rusty color here, something orangey or brownish, just like that. We're gonna get to the roughness now. We're gonna push it up a little bit. Rust is very rough after all. And yeah, let's see, that's looking good. We're gonna get this named properly and maybe duplicate it. Let's get a little bit more variation here. Call this rust color and just move the rust color a little bit here. And then we can go to fill. Let me guess, another smudge. Oh, we actually went with something else. Okay, we get whatever kind of texture we want here. Maybe clouds or spots or something like that, so that we get a little bit color variation on our rusty nails here. When we are done with that, we can get this lower part a little bit more dark, and let's find a good balance for those two colors. When that's done, we don't want the rust to be everywhere, so let's find a good fill or a good generator that's gonna give us the look that we want. I'm probably gonna go for a fill layer here and just get some dirt everywhere around the nail here. Let's see. You can get this scratched kind of grungy dirt, and yeah, that's looking fine actually. Nothing much to do here. Let's see what else we can go for. I'm gonna create another fill layer here, just inside our nails folder over the rust folder. Get a fill layer in it, and let's see. We need a little bit more variation on the metal side of things. So I'm gonna get some scratches here, and we're gonna work, of course, our sliders to get a little bit more of metal variation on our nails, to make them a little bit more interesting. Get a triplanar projection going, and yeah, that's looking kind of cool. We call them bump because we move the height slider a little bit so they look a little bumpy, like they've been hit with a hammer actually. And yeah, I think this is gonna work for us. We're just gonna work the sliders here a little bit, nothing crazy is going on. Added another grunge map, and yeah, that's gonna be it until we commit to the ropes. Ropes are also gonna be fairly simple. Let's add a rope folder, give it another fill layer, and just select a color that works for us. That's gonna look a little bit like rope here. This is going to be our base color. So now we can move the roughness up a little bit and create another fill layer. This is gonna be called lines. This is going to show those little lines that each individual rope strand is made from. So we're gonna need some kind of lines here. Let's get a fill layer here and let's just get lines. And we're gonna move the number up high and the width probably a little lower, but we're gonna need them to connect properly down here. You can see how they're kind of disjointed. So let's move the rotation slider until we get something we like that works for us. So you can see they kind of connected here now and go all the way around. Now all we have to do is work on, let's see if the rotation can be even more angled here. I tried it with the triplanar, but that doesn't work. It just separates them too much. So we're gonna remove the bend. We're gonna move the rotation a little bit so they kind of align properly. And I don't think this will be the one. We're probably gonna move them even more on the rotation side so that they're kind of angled towards the log here. I don't think that these straight lines work really. So yeah, just move them until we reach something that's more looking more like a rope. So maybe this will work, something like this. Okay, cool. Now that's done, we're gonna have to change a few settings in the base here. We're gonna make them indented a little bit by moving the height and of course creating a more darker color on them. Roughness goes high, of course, and let's see. There we go, but they're not really visible, so let's add a filter here and we're just gonna give it a blur filter. Not blur slope this time, just blur. And this is gonna create this little bit of a beveled effect, which works for us here. So give it some small value here and we can now maybe push the settings a little further until we see something we like, just like that. Since that is done, let's go and create our dirt here for the rope. We're just gonna, of course, get a generator here. Let's grab the dirt generator. Just search for dirt if you don't see it right away. There we go, there's the dirt generator. And let's move the settings around a little bit so we can get it in between all those little lines and in between the ropes themselves. Get a color we like. I really like picking here directly from the wood mesh of this darker color here. It kind of keeps the continuity going, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is already looking pretty cool. I don't see why this wouldn't be used. Let's fix the lines here a little bit more. I just added a little bit more tiling and because of that moved the width a little bit, so it's not so kind of stylized. It's more of a realistic rope feel here with the smaller lines. Duplicated the base layer here and gave it a fill layer, dragged it all the way up here and gave it, of course, a smudge, which is gonna go for a little bit of color variation. Probably works better down here. Let's see, maybe something darker so it looks like it's a little bit dirty and kind of goes with the whole thing of this gate being old and kind of dirty. So yeah, this is already looking kind of okay. I think this is what we're gonna go for here. Actually, we can probably get a little bit more moss on it, on the rope I mean. So let's grab the moss down here from our wood folder, duplicate it, and we can move it up here to our rope folder. And yeah, that's working well already. You can see me just trying to hide and unhide the different layers here just to see how it affects the rope, how it feels with and without the moss on it. Just trying different kinds of settings here. Try whatever works for you. The best result is going to be the one that works for you. Working with the tiling here as well a little bit. And yeah, I noticed that on both sides of the rope there's these sharp lines just cutting through them. This is from our dirt or from our variation in the color. That's because our smudge here or some other grunge map is using UV projection. So where the UV has been cut, that's where it's going to look like it's been cut here on our mesh. So we just move it to triplanar and that's gonna work perfectly. And if that's looking good, we can see if we can do the same thing for our moss. Maybe the moss has also some UV projected layers on it. Let's see up here on the same smudge here. No, it's triplanar here, but this one is not. This dirt mask here, we can switch that to triplanar as well. Basically, it's almost always better to have it on triplanar. Sometimes you would want it to have it on UV. It just depends on what you want the map to do. Also working our light generator here a little bit to see if we can get some other results on our rope here. But basically, we're gonna be pretty happy with this here. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, you are finished with the texturing part of our gate here. Now, the only thing left to do, and it's probably the most important part, is to just take a break now. Either go watch your favorite series, go watch a movie, take a nap. In best case scenario, you would take one full day to just take a break from it, go away and come back in, let's say, 24 hours. This is going to change the perspective of your textures drastically because you'll be able to come with a fresh set of eyes and see what else could be done in just shifting some colors, shifting the hue here and there, or shifting the parameter of something, maybe the roughness, maybe the height, to get it even more dramatic looking. Here's an example of what I did once I was finished with this gate and then taking a break for 24 hours, coming back and then just shifting a few hues in almost every layer just to get the colors to pop a little bit more, to get more contrast, to get more edges, to get more edge wear. It also helps if you get a second set of eyes on the render here or on the textures. Show it to your friend, show it to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom, your dad, your grandpa, it doesn't matter. Show it to anybody who wants to look at it. And I promise you, this will definitely change the outcome of your work. And if there's nobody that you can show it to, you can always jump on the link below, go to our Discord and just showcase your work there. I'll be happy to answer any questions or have a look at any of your work. I would be delighted to see what you have come up with. I know this has been a longer one, so thank you for sticking around. Leave a comment with any questions, leave a comment with any suggestions or any feedback. And next time we see each other, we'll be rendering this cool looking gate. Thanks for stopping by and I'll see you next time.